Radha Kunja Vihari. Jayam Vishnupat Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashto Tarasata Shishimadhi His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupat Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashto Tarasata Shishimadhi His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Grantara Shrimad Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishiguru and Shigoranga. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summum Bonum, Chapter 80, the Brahmana Sudama visit Krishna in Dwarka. And the texts are 23 to 26. So these are several verses that don't have a purport. That somehow or other we're maintaining the same program that we have for many years. Okay, so you can chant after me. Kuchailam malitam shamam dvijandhamani santatam devi padya charat shakshat chamarabhya janena vai. Kuchailam malinam shamam dvijandhamani santatam devi padya charat shakshat chamarabhya janena vai. Kuchailam malinam shamam dvijandhamani santatam devi padya charat shakshat chamarabhya janena vai. Please chant. Kuchailam malinam chayam dvijandhamani santatam devi padya charat shakshat chamarabhya janena vai. We just read the translation. Kuchailam malinam shamam Dvijandhama nishantatam Devi Parya Charat Sakshat Chamara Vyajane Navai Kuchailam malinam shamam Dvijandhama nishantatam Devi Padya Chara Shakshat Chamara Vyajane Navai. Can pass it to Kuchailam Malinan Shamam Dvijandhama Nishantatam Devi Padya Chara Shakshat Chamara Vyajane Navai. Ku, poor, Chailam, whose dress, Malinam, dirty, Shamam, emaciated, Dvijam, the Brahmana, Dhamini Santatam, his veins visible, Devi, the goddess of fortune, Padya Charat, serve Shakshat personally, Chamara, with a jack-tail fan, Vyajanena, by fanning, by indeed, translations by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. By fanning him with her chamara, the divine goddess of fortune personally served that poor Brahmana whose clothing was torn and dirty and who was so thin that the veins were visible all over his body. Here's the purport of the great Vaishnavacharyas, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Jiva Goswami on this verse. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Rukmini herself, Shakshat Devi, fanned him with a chamara. In another version of the text, Shaivya, another queen, waved the chamara, but does not agree with the Padma Purana Uttarakanda. So two different versions, but in this case, it is understood as Rukmini. Srila Jiva Goswami comments on this verse. Since he had a worn out clothing, also, here we go again. Since he had, so this is Sudama. Since he had a worn out clothing, Krishna also gave him new clothes. The reason is revealed later. His body was discolored, malinam, because of suffering from cold. From the description of his condition, it was not proper that for Rukmini to worship him. The descriptive elements are in order to increasing intensity and in order of increasing intensity. Still, she worshipped him, though she was directly the queen of Krishna. This showed her affection for Brahmanas. So, in one sense, Srila Jiva Goswami explains that although in the verse it is said that Shrimati Rukmini Devi was fanning him, um, Sudama, and describes Sudama's conditions as being with dirty clothing and ripped apart, and his um, appearance was, um, you know, with a discolored body and very skinny and all that. But the part that is implied or understood, Srila Jiva Goswami clarifies that actually, as Krishna worshipped him, he offered him clothing. So he was properly dressed, and Rukmini Devi, was worshipping him. So the overall picture of how both Krishna and the goddess of fortune were hosting Sudama Brahmana with very, 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 very careful attention, and honor him, in that way. See, Srila Sanatana Goswami have a very similar. Um, so Srila Jiva Goswami, in his purport, he paraphrased what Srila Sanatana Goswami commented. And so I read anyway Srila Sanatana Goswami's on this verse. It is implied that the Brahmana with torn clothing, Kuchailam, was given a new clothes. The cause will be clear later. His body was discolored since, being poor, he could not have an oil bath. So when it is cold, I guess you have an oil bath, massage, and that will help keep the body properly maintained. What is the name of that? As there's a Ayurvedic term for oil, abhyanga. Abhyanga is something that is very much recommended for health. Srila Prabhupada used to maintain for many years, even as his body was deteriorating due to his austerities during, after taking Vanaprastha and Sannyas, Prabhupada was very austere. He lived in a very, very austere condition. And we know that he suffered of heart attacks. And even when he came to America for 1 year in New York, he was living in a terribly austere condition. And then that took attacks on his body. But after when he got another heart attack, and he was, in his estimation, he should have been finished. But because he instructed his disciples to pray to Lord Krishna and to Lord Nrsingadev to maintain Srila Prabhupada in the world, then Srila Prabhupada says this allow him to stay. So he started this program of massaging with oil. So then during winter, heavy oils are used, like mustard oil and almond oil, sesame oil. Krishna Archana does it for years every day. And so, but Sudama Brahmana, a very austere, poor Brahmana, could not do that. So his body, you can see the signs of his body, in this case, was discolored. The description indicates that he was not qualified to be served by Rukmini. The words are successively stronger. The words are successively stronger reasons not to serve him. Moreover, she was worshipped by the world, Devi, or she shone with beauty and qualities. She served him because she was obedient to her husband, giving up all relative, since she was a young girl dedicated to the Lord. So, from external estimation, Sudama Brahmana was not qualified to be worshipped by the goddess of fortune. In one sense, because, you know, the fact that he was poor, it means that fortune, when one has, say, one of the signs of piety is that there is good fortune. And it is understood externally, at least in the material world, when you're suffering from poverty, is a result of some impious activities. So this is the result of sinful activities or adharmic activities that you ended in poverty or suffer from disease or uneducation or a very ugly appearance. These are all impious results. So from the external estimation is very, what is this beggar? It's like a homeless person, you know. Sometimes you see these characters, homeless characters that are not clean and with the body showing those signs, of uncare. That's on that estimation is something that is, sometimes even when someone in this situation enters a temple room, people immediately, feels like, no, there is, you're not properly clean. You can't enter here. You have to come properly clean. There has been situations here in Chicago. Remember one girl that came and the smell was so bad. I mean, it was so strong that the temple room became, you can actually, she was sitting over there and here you can smell it. So what do? You say, no, you can be here, you know? You have to come clean. It's just part of. So on this estimation, externally, Sudama was not suitable to enter into Krishna's, space. And Sudama was in great anxiety about that. Yesterday we heard, as he's coming towards Dwarka, he is thinking, how am I gonna enter here? I don't, he was he accepted that because of his wife. And you know, he have this very sweet relationship with Krishna. Remembering, their very, very close, sweet friendship as a child. But he was anxious. He was very anxious. And so in all estimation, so, as he's approaching from the distance, he didn't have to cross to all the awkward situations of doorkeepers and all that and people. There were people there. All of those things are there. He's entering the palace of Krishna. But Krishna, yesterday we heard, he saw him far in the distance. And Krishna, as he's sitting, being worshipped by all and the goddess of fortune, he stood up and ran towards Sudama. So, no time for anyone. There is the supreme person running himself towards Sudama, embracing, took it by the hand, sitting on his throne, and start to worshiping him. And there is a goddess of fortune, Shrimati Rukmini Devi, who, with the same chamara that was fanning Krishna, is starting to fan Sudama. It's quite remarkable. And so this is brought up. So here's text number 24. Translation by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. The people in the royal palace were astonished to see Krishna, the Lord of a spotless glory, so lovingly honor this shabbily dressed Brahmana. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comment. He was served by Krishna who has a spotless glory, Amala Kirtina, served by all wealth, and was able to deliver Sudama from his poverty-stricken state with his soiled clothing. And Srila Jiva Goswami comments, seeing the renounced person being worshipped by Krishna, the people were astonished. Astonished. Srila Sanatana Goswami comments, since the Lord was worshipped by the devotees, he should not have worshipped the renounced Brahmana. He was moreover directly the Supreme Lord, and he worshipped with great prema. And he worshipped with great prema. Seeing the worship, people of all sorts were astonished. Sudama's body was discolored, or his characteristics could not be seen, though he was a household. Couldn't understand this very well. But the here is explained how the people of Dwarka were completely mesmerized by, by this situation. Dwarka is like Jagannath Puri is described as there's Madhurya Dham, there's Aishwarya Dham. Aishwarya Dham, no, Aishwarya Dham. So Vrindavan is Madhurya Dham. Jagannath Puri, that represents Dwarka, is Aishwarya Dham. And Mayapur, the land of Lord Chaitanya, is Audhurya Dham. So Aishwarya means opulence. The full opulence of the Lord is manifested in his full supremacy in Dwarka Dham. In Vrindavan is Madhurya, which is sweetness. So the sweetness, the inconceivable sweetness of Krishna's relationship with the devotees, devoid of all sense of opulence. Well, no, I'm sorry to say that. I backed up. There's great opulence, but the focus is on the sweetness. The sweetness is the dominant force there. And then Audarya is mercy, is magnanimity. Sometimes you feel that when you visit India, especially as aspiring devotees when we go on pilgrimage. The experience in Vrindavan, when you are, properly guided by a devotee and in the associations of advanced devotees, you do experience the sweetness of Vrindavan. It's a very, very beautiful place when you're properly introduced to Vrindavan. And everything, you can actually sense because it's so surcharged with Krishna's pastimes. And Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan are so sweet in terms of the relationship of Krishna with all the different Brijavasis. And there's 5,000 temples that remind us of those relationships. And then the mood of the Brijavasis are also very, very, very wonderful in terms of their devotion to Krishna. So it's very sweet. But what you experience is that you almost remain like an observant of those sweetness. To enter into that sweetness, you have to be a perfected being. You have to be a perfect devotee. You have to be a liberated devotee. You have to have, you have to fully understand or be situated in this position that is called um, to have Krishna Prema. Krishna Prema means that motivations are eliminated, personal motivation is unmotivated, and is uninterrupted. There's no interruption, there's no upside downs. It's just there. Uninterrupted, pure devotional service. Then you have entrance to the sweetness. So sometimes, you're tested in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, when you come, if you maintain some attachments or you have some desires, everything in Vrindavan is designed to take away from you. So either monkeys or Brijavasis, they're going to take your goods. They're stealing your shoes. In the market, they try to, charge you, extra, things like that. So if you are attached, sometimes you can become very upset and commit offenses. So you have to be very careful. So in other words, the brahmanas are harassing you. Give me donation, give me donation, give me, do this. And if you don't do, they become very aggressive, you know. So you're like an outsider, and everything there is going to take from you. But if you are in Krishna Prema, you have no attachments, you have perfect entrance to that sweetness. So that sweetness, you have to be qualified, in other words, to enter that. Then we have the Aishwarya Dham. Like when we go to Jagannath Puri, the amazing opulence of Lord Jagannath, which, is Krishna in Dwarka. The amazing opulence is most amazing uh, temple. But everything is so grandiose there that when we go, the place is designed for you to experience that you're nothing. You're like a little speck. If you think that, I'm a nice devotee, I have achieved so many things, so I'm an important person, or this and that, and then you come and in the entrance you say, no, no, you're a melecha, get out of here. You're not qualified to enter here. You're not even allowed to enter temple. You're treated like, yeah, keep doing that. That maybe in the future you will take birth, in a much more auspicious, and maybe you will have a darshan of Lord Jagannath, in the temple. So it's a place that also you require qualification. The qualification of of having, you know, you have to have a particular standard to be able to enter into the presence of Krishna. And we can recognize ourselves with Sudama, you know. Sometimes devotees have that. They go with certain anxiety. They're so eager to see Lord Jagannath that they try to go through and enter the Jagannath temple. So many devotees fail, but some devotees have succeeded. One of them, I remember Srila Bhaktitirtha Maharaj telling the story. He was one of the ones that successfully was entered um, to take darshan of Lord Jagannath. And just recently, uh, our good friend Murari Chaitanya Prabhu was telling us the story of him visiting his worshipable Lord Jagannath. Murari Chaitanya is very well known in our community of devotees by his devotion to Lord Jagannath. And so, as you know, Murari right now is, his body is consistently deteriorating. He may not have, much left in this world, but he's still there. So, in a very weakened condition, there was this very beautiful exchange that happened when Somya Mataji, Somya Mataji is a very gentle, pure-hearted devotee, and she came to visit. I was there in the room with Murari Chaitanya, and I was just chanting quietly, and Murari Chaitanya was just very quietly with eyes closed, but you can see that he was attentively hearing. Uh, so Somya and Narahari Prabhu came, and then immediately as Somya entered, then Murai Chaitanya acknowledged them, and Somya said something about Lord Jagannath. And she's starting to tell him how every time she thinks of Murari, she thinks of how beautiful he used to serve Lord Jagannath. And just by saying that, Murari Chaitanya, face lit up. And then they started this exchange. And he told this very amazing story of his visit to Jagannath Puri. And he said that, the first time he goes to India, he goes to Jagannath Puri, and he had this great, great hope to enter the great palace, the great temple of Lord Jagannath, and take darshan of his worshipful Lord. And then, as he's in line, uh, the pandas stop him and not even talk to him. He say, just point at a big sign that says, non-Hindus or not people that are not born in India cannot enter this temple. So Murari he said, it was a mix of disappointment, of anger, and it brought out a tremendous amount of pain that not just, to being not allowed to enter the temple, but it hit in a very hurtful space that he had to live through his life. Because he's an older African American man who have to go through the whole discrimination and especially towards African Americans during the segregated times in the U.S. So he said that remind him of signs that used to be that only white persons and black persons cannot enter, and in making the hurt created this anger. He was very angry, and as he's angry, he heard a voice, and he understood it was Lord Jagannath talking to him. And the voice said, "What are you complaining about it? What is your problem? I have go 3,000 miles to and towards yourself and choose you to be my pujari. So what's your problem? Right, Chaitanya he said, he was like stunned. And he say, yeah, that's right. And then he was fully pacified. He was fully pacified. So that's the experience of this Aishwarya. Great, great, great opulence of the Lord. But if you're in the right mood, then you can understand just by seeing the chakra, just by seeing the opulence of the Lord, then you can have a full connection, a full experience. So both in Vrindavan and Dwarka, we need to be qualified to have this sort of entrance into the space of Krishna. But in Mayapur, there's no restrictions, there's no regulations. And we have that experience. I remember noticing that because that time, there was one time both my wife and I went to pilgrimage, 1996, during the 100th anniversary of uh, Srila Prabhupada's 100th anniversary, I think. Yeah. Uh, that we went to Vrindavan, Jagannath Puri, and Mayapur. And as we enter Mayapur, after experiencing all this, in Vrindavan, remember, some very aggressive brahmanas, my wife was very disturbed because these aggressive brahmanas were, you know, chastising us because we were not doing this particular puja or that particular puja. We were just wanted to, and we're not very wealthy, so we just wanted to do our listen about Krishna and do the parikram. So we learn it. Then in Jagannath Puri, we cannot enter many temples. And then we go to Mayapur, and as we go in, then the brahmanas of the temple, the pujaris, they invite you in. And then here it comes. Here comes the pitch. We have to give all this donation and that donation and that donation. And then they're starting to serve us prasad. Like we're part of the family. We have entrance. We are accepted. We were accepted. We were accepted as Vaishnavas, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, as part of a whole family. In all temples, they seat you, they feed you, and there's no asking you for anything. It's just like, so we feel with you. You can feel very easy that you belong there, that you're part of the whole. You're part of that. So that's Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Lord Chaitanya, regardless of if we qualify or not, he delivers his mercy to us. So that's Audharya, 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 Audharya. So we have here Sudama entering. But then, in spite of all that, Lord Krishna is worshiping him. And everybody is astonished. So the text 25 and 26. Translation by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. The residents of the palace said, "What pious act has this unkept, impoverished Brahmana performed? People regard him as lowly as contemptible." How do you say that? Contemptible. Yet, the spiritual master of the three worlds, the abode of the goddess of Sri, is serving him reverently. Leaving the goddess of fortune sitting on her bed, the Lord has embraced this Brahmana as he were an older brother. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, in astonishment, the residents spoke this, And the next verse, because of the condition of his clothing, they consider him very low class. And Srila Jiva Goswami comments, this Brahmana is a beggar without wealth and criticized in this world. And lo, he does not have a pious birth. The word asao indicates that this person was directly present. He was served by the Lord, who is worshipped by Brahma and others, within the home within whom wealth resides constantly. This indicates that the Lord should not have respected him since he was devoid of wealth. Of course, the Lord should respect Brahmanas, but at least he should not embrace this Brahmana. And the Lord even gave up Lakshmi on the couch. Sometimes Sriyam is seen instead of Priyam. Moreover, he embraced the Brahmanas with the greatest affection as he were an elder brother. This verse represents the words of the residents of the palace. It would not be improper for the Lord to treat others in this manner, however. And Srila Sanatana Goswami also comments similar. He is a beggar without wealth, or poor, very low, without punya, criticized by all. The elements in the descriptions are progressively greater reasons for astonishment. Still, he must have done some punya in a previous life or in this life. But such punya is impossible. It is, if it is known, we should also do such punya. The Lord is personally present, though worshipped by gurus of the three worlds, who is constantly the residence of Lakshmi and who live with her, should not respect someone without wealth. Or he should worship Brahmanas, but he should not embrace him, even giving up Lakshmi on her couch, and with great affection, as if he were an elder brother. He does not worship Gada or Pradumya like this. Balaram desires such worship. Although accepted by Lakshmi, he gives her up as she sits on the couch. So it's quite something, no? I mean, the people are looking at this and they say, now, how can we understand that? And what is the explanation of this? Well, that is the beauty and the basically the essence of all, which is Krishna prema. This prema, or this love that is between the devotee and Krishna, Krishna and the devotee. This the power of this affection that is there, that it goes beyond everything, conventions, rules, regulations, laws, dharma, everything becomes conquered by this Krishna prema. In fact, Krishna himself has explained that is completely conquered by this love. Krishna is described as Ajita, which is the unconquerable. Unconquerable. And there's this verse that Lord Brahma says that the unconquerable becomes conquerable by the devotee who has obtained this perfect uh, Krishna prema. So Krishna becomes conquerable, controlled. Srila Rupa Goswami explains. Krishna is controlled by prema. And it is something that cannot be understood. Cannot be understood by uh, by even transcendentalists. Even great, great munis and philosophers and demigods cannot understand this. Krishna explains. Hosts of demigods and sages cannot understand his position. He says in the tenth chapter of the Gita. He explains that out of many thousands of men, hardly one's trying to understand the absolute truth. And of all of those who have understood, hardly one knows it in truth. And then we know that the whole goal of life, or the whole purpose of the path that the living entity have to progressively go through, and the whole system in the universe, the whole structure that governs the universe, and especially human society, which is the Varnashram Dharma, which is designed by Krishna, is meant to bring people to overcome the condition of material existence, which is full of suffering, and come to the position of Brahmabhuta. This position of Brahmabhuta is when one realizes one's spiritual constitution. And the happiness of Brahmabhuta is called the prasanatma of Brahma, is the Brahman happiness. It's explained that that happiness is when you become free from the miseries of material life. If you imagine a graphic, so you have positive and negative, and then you have here, a, um, you know, um, like a line that is the zero. So positive, negative, and zero. So we start in here in negative, suffering, miseries, the threefold miseries, like that. And as we progress in spiritual, in a transcendental path, in a spiritual life, we go tun 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 tun. The material miseries start to be diminished by the practices of devotional service, or by the practices of yoga. We start to become free from the miseries of material life, and eventually you come and hit zero. You hit zero when you become free from hankerings and lamentation. You and you become conscious now of your spiritual condition, your constitution. So it's zero. At that point, now when you continue, now you enter into the positive part. And that's what devotional service starts. So, what is it? Brahma Bhuta Prasanamana Sochatina Kanchati. No more lamentation, no more hankerings. Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktin Labate Param. Mad Bhaktin Labate Param. Now devotional service starts. And then it's like this. Suppose we have a huge debt. We have a huge debt. And we are very anxious. How in the world I'm going to pay that debt? And that causes all kinds of miseries. I have to work 3 jobs. I have to, neglect this, don't eat properly, all these things to pay that debt. All kinds of miseries and anxieties. When I'm able to pay the debt, now I have zero balance. No debt, but I have no money either, because I spend all my money, in paying my debt. But now, after I pay my debt, after I'm in zero, so in zero, how are you going to enjoy if you have nothing in your bank? you know. But the next thing, as I start continue making money, now all that goes in the positive. There's no negative things. I'm free from debt. So I can, so it's similar like that. You can, picture like that. It's a gross, and how you say analogy or so so devotional service. Um, when we enter that realm and we are free from this hanker and lamentation, then this loving devotional service. Now, what governs then is love, and in that space, there's the rules completely change. It's called, that's what it's called. It's inconceivable, and to be able to understand that, even if we're not there, just to understand it, Krishna says, only through a devotee. Bhaktyamana Vijanati. You want to understand the realm? You take shelter of a devotee. And by taking shelter of the devotee, you can get there. And you can experience that. So in our case, we are under the shelter of a devotee, a perfect. Krishna is called a, a premi bhakta, a devotee who is completely absorbed in Krishna prema. And under the shelter of a premi bhakta, then we actually engage in pure devotional service. In the engagement of pure devotional service, because we are not yet mature in that, what we experience is what is called anishtata bhakti. Our devotion is not uninterrupted like the premi bhakta. Our devotion becomes interrupted. Our flow of love, because when the devotees serve, like say we just experienced Janmashtami, you have to, you be dull if you're not able to appreciate the devotion of the devotees. The way the deities becomes dressed, the way the deities are treated, the way everything, there's devotion, there's love. The expressions of devotion that the devotees have during the midnight arti, as they see Krishna and the curtains opens and they go crazy like that. There's something there. So there is love, but that love is interrupted at times. It's not uninterrupted. And what is the interruption? The interruption is caused by our different other interests and desires and hankerings like that. But we are engaged in pure devotional service. And the governing feature is love. So we basically becoming more and more purified and controlled by that love. And Krishna, as is depicted here, is the perfect friend. He declares it. Shuhidan Sarvabhutanam. He is the perfect friend of all living entities. And he is the perfect friend of Sudama. And this beautiful exchange that is mesmerizing to see from the outside is like, doesn't make sense. It defies, all the rules. But that's what love do. And on the other side, I finish with this, from Sudama's side, is also astonishing and mesmerizing. Because you see him from the sides of Krishna and the sides of people seeing the whole scene. Even the goddess of fortune is a little, like telling Krishna, then we're going to hear, slow down. I can, I won't be able to reciprocate with this Brahmana, if you continue doing things. So, but from the perspective of Sudama, it's also, because the perspective of Sudama, yesterday we were talking about that during Krishna Archana's presentation class, that, here is, he knows Krishna is God. And he is in this situation in which, um, you know, he have to accept Krishna's love. And in spite of all that, he goes through. And everything becomes basically, nothing matters but that connection that is there, that picture of Sudama looking at Krishna's face and Krishna's looking at Sudama's face, and tears are coming from their eyes. As Krishna is worshiping Sudama, Sudama is sitting, there's a beautiful picture, DVD picture. Sudama sitting in Krishna's throne, Rukmini fanning, Krishna sitting in the floor, massaging and bathing Sudama's feet. And then Krishna is looking at Sudama and Sudama is looking at Krishna. And then there's tears, you can see in the picture, on both of them. That's what dominates everything. And everything becomes, there's no outside. It's just that. And so that thing that happens in the relationship with devotees that they forget about. My spiritual master was speaking about Devaki in the prison of Kansa, in front of Lord Narayan, forearm Lord Narayan in front of them, telling Lord Narayan, please assume the form of a baby because I'm afraid, and do something because I'm afraid cancer will come and kill you. It's like, doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. How does that mean? She understands what God is. God cannot be killed by a time, by a demon. And even, if there is something, how does it make sense that he should take the form of a baby? You know what a baby can. So, and so all these, how is that this bewildering happens, or this thing happens, is because of love. Love causes concern. That although you know is God, I'm concerned about. Um, Many examples. Mother Yasoda thinking, I have to feed him because he's hungry. Even us, the devotees, why do we cook for Krishna and we're trying to do it on time? Because Krishna needs to eat. He doesn't need to eat. He's self-sufficient. So, but don't we do all these things. This is what devotional service is. Krishna doesn't need anything, but we serve him. And the whole thing is that the serve is made because love, because we want to please Krishna. Although Krishna is Atmarama, he is self-sufficient, he doesn't need to be pleased. That relationship that's what the yogis do. The yogis sit down in meditation, and Krishna doesn't need us. Krishna doesn't need devotional service. Krishna is perfect and complete. He doesn't need anything. But the devotee, the bhakta, is different. So the power of love is something quite astonishing for anyone to understand. And we're fortunate that we can understand that because we're being favor. We have the fortune of being under the shelter of the perfect devotees, perfect uh, Premi Bhaktas, like Srila Prabhupada. Any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna. I think Rama was in a very shabby position. It doesn't mean that he is unclean, like because of the Brahman is pure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's just externally. You know, sometimes you see people are looking externally and then they make assumptions, they make judgment out of their external perceptions. Obviously, Sudama was, you know, there was no fault.
Because of his austerity, his body became weak and
Exactly.
weak.
But they also saw that the clothing was, was turned and stained. I mean, and stained clothing doesn't mean that it's dirty. It's just stained. You know, uh, obviously, as a brahmana, if you have a brahmana, brahmanas are sochan. So you clean like when we would train in the temples, in the brahmacharya ashram. You have two dhotis. You in at night before going to bed. I remember you have everybody have their little bucket. You do that. That's how we all got trained. You were also in the ashram. We clean it, hang it, and then the next dhoti, and we have like that. So, I mean, it didn't. Sometimes we have turned dhotis, the dhotis that look, but they were clean.
The previous program was there, like devotees new concept of Brahman. The person is right created.
Yeah,
It was saying of Murari Prabhu, something came in my mind. Like, uh, there's this thing with Murari Prabhu, deity worship, and he was very particular with the dress, very nice colors, I think, very
yeah.
romantic, very focused.
He was
Then
telling.
after,
It was such a beautiful exchange. He's starting to tell what he used to do, and he said that he will meditate, and then he will go way in advance to pick the best flowers because he used to put all these flower arrangements around the turbans and then you know he start with Balaram because he will experiment with Balaram, so to make sure that when he gets to Lord Jagannath everything is figured out perfectly. So they have that arrangement. Lord Balaram was really happy with that. Krishna was really happy with that. And then he said, Subhadra Maharani will be protesting. What about me? This is him saying that's what his whole meditation. He's saying, no, no, no. He have gone down and he have the best flowers for her. So because she's a girl, she have to look the most beautiful. So don't worry, she will look the most beautiful. So that was, this. So that was his whole meditation. I mean, it's incredible. It's the the beautiful service that he made. That in despite of how things turn, that's never forgotten. And Krishna is taking care of him.
the time, like, to Bala being very melodious also, very and
Yeah,
then his dress, the turban which makes very creative, very that's like all the colors taking a lot of focus on.
yeah,
And I was like thinking like when you say the change of body beyond birth and death, how practically we say about the changing of body. Same the situation like now with bedridden. least
Yeah.
realization for us also that body hurts, body actually.
Yeah,
Like we,
we encourage to all of the devotees go and visit him, and you don't need to talk too much. You just chant. He takes it. You know. So if you have a chance, go and visit him. Any other questions?
one question was there, like shelter of devotees,
Okay, what?
shelter of devotees you are mentioning. So we call it is three types of devotees. Like one is finding fault in others, which one should not associate. One should associate person of fault. Then first class.
Say that again, Prabhu. Why don't you take make the microphone a little.
Association of devotees means the three classes. Madhyam, Uttam, and Kanishta. Like in other words, we should not associate a person who finds faults with others,
Mm.
and one who is faultless. We should associate with such a person.
Yes, 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 yes.
So such devotee is very rare.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's true. We have to be very careful, especially with it's sensitive with devotees sometimes. That have this propensity of being critical. It, it, um, it it does something. So it's better to avoid, or at least to say something. No, you know, don't criticize, type of thing, because yeah, it can be very, very, very. It can hurt the consciousness like that. So yeah, yeah,
Really a very real hostile thing, like to be come to that stage, like such an association we should seek after, like who is faultless, who has no fault. Because as Kali Yuga we can see, like after many years of practice of Krishna consciousness,
mm,
it's very small, it's very tiny, but still we feel like the time is everything is changing,
yeah,
everything is going. That's the nature of the material world.
yeah. I found myself, that there's a natural propensity that is there, and it's just understandable. As long as I have a false ego, I'm going to have certain biases. My false ego will dictate I don't like. It's just part of the arrangement, it's how it is. You know, the body has a particular nature, and that nature, is controlled by my false ego. And, you know, with that comes aversions and attractions. It's just part of the body. And everybody have a different combinations of things. So I'm going to have certain biases, that's for sure. And so for us to deal with that reality as devotees, to counteract that, then we do two things. We do sadhana to purify ourselves from that influence, and we cultivate the qualities of the Vaishnava. And the qualities, that have been singled as most important for performing sadhana is the Trinadapi Sunichina verse. So we have to practice this thing. We have to practice being humble and understand what these qualities means. So we have to study a little bit. We have to practice tolerance. Tolerance means, that in spite of our difference and disagreements, we accept, we tolerate, and we accept others, we accept ourselves, we accept situations, understanding that Krishna is in control, and we have to practice being respectful. And respect will take many, many shapes. One of the shapes is that, everybody have their timing. I cannot force some. If I'm trying to force you, then I'm being disrespectful. I have to be respectful of your timing. And then the other part is that I'm looking to be respected myself. I'm expected to be appreciated and respected. So all these things they're not natural when we are on our false ego program. So we have to really cultivate and be introspective about this thing. I'm going to finish here because it's getting late. But I appreciate very much. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here and encourage. Hare Krishna. Grantara Bhagavatam ki jai.